Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to this final live stream in this series where we're taking a look at the Apple Teacher online CPD program. My name is Richard Child. I'm the Education Manager for MCC Digital. We are an Apple authorised education specialist helping schools up and down the country achieve impact with their Apple devices, iPads and Macs. With me, as always, is Mr. David Kirtland, an Apple professional learning specialist and all-around font of knowledge for all things with an Apple badge on them. And we've had a look, haven't we, David, at the iPad modules over the last 6 or 7 sessions. And now we're going to take a look back at the Apple Teacher Learning Center. It's the gift that keeps on giving, right? There's lots of things getting posted on there, and we're going to take a look at a couple of those resources, right?
Yeah, that's it. There's so much content in the Apple Teacher Resource Center now, and it just keeps getting more and more content added to it. It's such a great place to go and get some inspiration and a few new ideas. So let's jump back into it now. So there's the Apple Teacher Learning Center. We've spent the last few weeks now looking at with the section there that's called Learn Skills for iPad. That's where we worked through all those resources and we've practiced our skills with those different apps and then maybe took our badges as well at the end of it. Now, just look there, we've got Learn Skills from an iPad. You've got another set of badges, which are quite similar, really. It's looking at the Mac applications there. Section there about Earn Badges, a set of 4 more badges. If you want more badges in your collection, there's another set of 4 there specifically about Swift. And if you need a little bit more help with Swift, look back to the result we created in C. Lots of the Swift playgrounds options there. Look through some of the lessons and how we might teach those in a class, and those are all available on the YouTube channel with everything else. So those are the badges, those are the core content there. Now, along this headline banner, we looked at these in the very first session here that's given us lots of ideas that we can use in the classroom. So we dug in and had a quick look at those 30 time-saving tips for teachers. Do go back at those, work through all 30 of those, and the nice, quick and simple ideas, just tips of how you might use the iPad in the classroom just to make things a little bit easier for you. There's some really great ideas in there. We have got these other documents here, support for remote learning and going a bit further with developing in Swift. We've also got these 30 more creative activities for kids. There's the original 30 in there as well. So there's 60 ideas of things that you might want to start doing with your children in the classroom and really practicing some of those skills that you might have learned now with iMovie and Keynote and all those other things in there. Lots of ideas to start fleshing out into other topics and developing things that you might know and things you can do in the classroom. Now, when you want to go a little bit further, it's even linking you into the Everyone Can Create resources. And that takes us way back to series 1 of these projects and really developing some of those things where we can go much further with it. These are really great project guides. There's also taking it a bit further rather than just little activities. There's quite a lot of depth to those. So that takes you straight to the Everyone Can Create books, and you can click on there and have a browse around and really get into some of the details. Now, there is an interesting one on here now, enhanced learning with augmented reality in this session today. And just really to kind of start that ball rolling, because this is something that's developing really quite quickly, interesting, the type of things that we can do in the classroom. And it's really nice that it pops up here on the Apple Teacher Learning Center. Resources that are here and then projects that we might do. As this loads, we can see some available to us. So give that one more second. Or 2 more seconds. Let's refresh that page and see what's happening there. Okay, there we are. So we've got this nice little kind of introduction to the beginnings of how we might use of things we could do with it. So just a bit of an overview. I'm not going to go into the details of this, but why do we use augmented reality in the classroom? Well, it's all about immersing the children in that learning experience and really letting them explore a subject in perhaps a bit more detail. And that could be using something like the augmented maps. It could be going down to the Google Cultural Institute and visiting some of the exhibits there online. But as we go through here, as we get to the bottom of it, we get to this nice little bit where it says, well, let's start exploring. And these are the starting points of some apps that you might want to have a look at. And these are all free. So you can dig into these and have a look at the different features that we can do with these and what we can do in the classroom. Now, to help us get started, it does take us to a book. And this is directly through the Apple Teacher Learning Center rather than through the bookstore. And we can download the book here, Augmented Reality in Education. So let's jump into the Books app and have a quick look at this book. So let's skip through some of the pages and just see what's there. So we've got our nice contents here, and you can see we've got a page or two on each of those apps that we've just seen in the Apple Teacher Learning Center. So let's skip past these little bits that we might have thought about on that web page. So why augmented reality? And so not only does it give us an idea of the app I want to use, it starts dipping a toe into some of the topics and some of the things that we can do with these in the classroom. So this is just a simple one about measuring the steps there to try it. So how we can measure the distances in a rectangle. And we've got quite a few of these. So let's have a look. We've got a nice introduction to Geogebra, which is a lovely maths app, and it really kind of brings those shapes into the real world. And we've got a few others here. This is a lovely one, the night sky, where we can hold the iPad up and see the different constellations. It's great for that home learning side. We get the children stood outside and looking at the night sky. Now, I'm not going to go into these apps. You can download these. You can do these little try it tasks here, and you can explore some of these topics that you might want to introduce with the AR apps. But if I go a bit further in the book, and I get towards the end of the book, we get to two really interesting ones. And it's all there in that heading that says, make your own reality. So this is introducing AR Maker, which is a nice free app, and it's great for the younger children, but it's equally useful for some of the slightly older children as well. And then it does take us on to have our first look at Reality Composer as well. And these two are really brilliant apps. They're both free, and you can do so much with these to start the children creating their own augmented reality environments. And we can use that to explore an area, maybe start telling a narrative, creating an interactive documentary, all sorts of things that we could do with this. So let's have a quick look at, firstly, AR Maker, and give you a few ideas that you could start using in the classroom. So I'm going to jump over to the AR Maker app and have a first look. And you can see this is designed for the younger children. We've got these starter templates that we can see and how we might use these in a classroom. So I'm going to pick I'm going to go for Space Mission. We start this environment up the iPad camera, and it's asking me to move the iPad around in front of me. And what that's spaces, that's going to become the space where we can build our environment. And you might notice there, mine's picked out two spaces. It's picked out one on top of the table and one down there on the floor. The one on the table, that's the one I want to use. And that becomes our working space for our little AR environment. And as I move my iPad around, you see there's that little kind of target area there that it's moving around the table. And I've got a few objects down the left-hand side. These are elements that I can put into that augmented reality space. So I think I'm going to put a moon in first. So there's my moon. I've just selected it from the left-hand side. And as I move my iPad around the table, I can decide where this moon goes. And I think I'm just going to put it in the middle. So I'm going to tap that place button. And that locks it into that position in my virtual reality space, my augmented reality space. And now when I move the iPad around, the moon is there, and I can go nice and close, and I can spin my iPad around it. We can go over the top, and we can have a look at the moon within that space. And of course, I can add 2 or 3 or 4 elements into this and have a look at those different objects in relation to each other. I can also resize them by just pinching on the screen. When an object's there, I can tap on it, and I do get some animations built in, so I can make the moon spin if I want it to spin around, depending on what our object is, or in our case, orbit might be a more useful one. So maybe we could build our own solar system and see the different objects orbiting around the sun. So we have options here. Now, the back arrow here, it just removes those options to add more elements to my space, but it does the camera and the video recorder. So it's just a screen recorder. I can record this in real time, whatever's happening on the screen as I look around the different environments, and the voice over as we speak to explain the topic. And that can become a really powerful tool thinking about that narrative elements in learning. So we've had a quick look at the templates. I'm going to quit that one there and go back to the options that we have right at the beginning. And this becomes much more interesting when we start to create our own space. So I want to create my own space now around maybe doing something about dinosaurs. We're going to introduce dinosaurs into the curriculum. We want the children to tell us a little bit about their knowledge and understanding. Now, we do have some tools within AR Maker to draw some of these characters, but let's think about some of the skills we've learned throughout these different badges over the last few weeks. So I'm going to come out of AR Maker for a moment, and I'm going to go back to Keynote, which I know is one of Richard's favorite apps there, just because it is so flexible. So let's create a new presentation. So I'm going to create a new blank one, as we've done 1,000 times now. So let's choose a theme, and I'm going to go for a basic white one. That's fine. And we're going to use this to help create some of those characters to put into our little AR space. So there's my first slide. I don't need a title on it. We're going to use this for the character text boxes and delete starting point. Template here. So I'm just going to use the More button. I'm just going to change the slide size, and I think square is going to work quite nicely for what we want to do here. So I've just changed my slide to a simple square space. So let's put our first element in, and we've had a look already in Keynote at these shapes and how flexible those are when we're creating all sorts of content. So I'm going to press plus and go to my Shapes tab, and let's just search and see what we find if we put in dinosaurs. And we've got some nice ones to start us off here. We've got this T-Rex. So let's put the T-Rex in there. Let's make him a bit bigger and fill up a lot of this square. Now, these shapes are really quite nice and customizable. And I want this to be my first character in our augmented reality environment. Now, I don't want him to be black. That's not very exciting. So let's use that paintbrush tool and let's change the fill color to a kind of a green color. Let's go for a slightly lighter one. Okay, so it's looking more like a dinosaur we might want to have here, but there's not a lot of depth to him. He's a very flat shape at the moment. So I can develop this a bit further by pressing the plus again, and going back to my media browser this time, and bringing up the drawing tools. And I've got these options down here. I think I'm going to use the crayon, and I'm going to change the color to a kind of a darker green. Now, I could use my finger, but I've got an Apple Pencil here, so I'm going to use that. And this now gives me a few options to start kind of shading the dinosaur in. And you can spend a bit more time, start developing those drawing skills and start bringing in that image, enhancing these shapes into whatever we want. So I'm just going to add a bit more kind of shade, a little bit more depth into his body there. Let's shade his down. Maybe we draw him an eye in and a nose. We could change the pencil here, but we can put him some teeth in as well. And we can start developing this dinosaur and really making him our own character. So I think that'll do for me at the moment. But we need to think about preparing this to go into our augmented reality environment. So I've got those pencil drawings overlaid over the top of the shape. Other hand, I'm just going to tap the shape as well. So I've selected both, and I can group these together just so that behaves as one object now as I move it around the screen. Now, an important step here, when we get it into AR Maker, I need my dinosaur to stand on the table in my case. That could have been a model environment we've built up. If we're building papier-mâché and all sorts of things, we could have created our dinosaur landscape, but I don't need it here. I need it, importantly, down at the bottom of the screen so that it does stand on that environment. Turn him around. I'm going to flip him here with that little paintbrush tool, just so he's facing the other direction. But I'm quite happy with that. That's okay for my first dinosaur. Let's add a couple more elements in and add another slide. Let's go have another square slide there. Let's go back to our shapes. We're still on dinosaurs. Let's put this Brontosaurus, I think it is this time. So let's put him up here. So let's make him, he's a nice tall dinosaur. So let's fill that space. And again, let's change the color. So I think this one's going to be a more brown kind of color. Let's go for that one there. And again, we'll use that paintbrush on our media browser, and let's draw in some of the, and I think I'll go for I think I'll add this dark green in here this time. A bit more shading in here, maybe an eye up there. Add some color and some differences to. Let's leave it there for this one, but let's at the bottom of that square there, so he is on the ground as and when we want to this dinosaur. So I'm going to go back, add one more square slide, and back to my shapes. And I think we'll put a landscape element in. Let's look for a tree. There's a tree. There's a good one. So let's make it nice and big and fill the space there. It's looking very dark, so let's make it green. And then let's bring back those drawing tools so we can put a bit of depth to our tree here and put some things in here. We could even put some apples on it if we wanted to, but we've got a bit more depth to our object here. So we can spend as long as we like developing those drawing skills and developing our styles. So that's looking okay to me. So we need to think about how we go through that workflow now of sharing content from one app to another. So let's export these as an image. So I'll press the More button again, the three dots up in the top corner, and we'll press Export Images. And JPEG images are fine for this. That's perfectly okay. So let's leave it on there and I'll export that. And it will give me that share option. And I'm just going to tap Save 3 images. And that will put them straight into my close Keynote now. We're done with Keynote for this stage. Let's check in our photos. And those are my dinosaurs down at the bottom of my photo library. So we're ready now. Let's go back to AR Maker. Let's create your own scene. So let's press that plus there. So let's start. And just like before, by those flat spaces. So I'm going to go for the table. But as I say, that could have been the task to get the children up and thinking about their creative arts and working with different types of material. And it's looking for my space around it. So I want to add a new element. So let's press that new object because I've got nothing there in my templates now. To this drawing page. So I could use that paintbrush and use my finger to create my characters. We do get some shapes along the bottom here. So that sphere, and we get a cylinder, so we can wrap images and pictures around those shapes, but I'm okay with these dinosaurs as they are. So I'm going to go to my files and bring in a photo I've already got. So let's bring the T-Rex in first. And there he is, sat there on that white background. So I'm going to press the tick. I don't need to flip him around. It's okay as it is. So there he is. And it's put it onto this grid background. And this is saying now we could get rid of this background. I can just erase part of this white bit with my finger, but I have an option there with the scissors where I have an auto feature. And this will automatically cut him out for me. And it does a really good job of this. So if I tap auto, you see how it's just removed all that white and it's cut him out of that background. So I'm going to press the tick and it says success. Our object has been saved now and ready for our AR environment. On the side, so I'm starting to build up my own list of characters. So let's put him in. So I'll tap him and there he is. Let's make him a bit bigger so we can pinch now and size for him. Let's put him about there. And I think put him over here in this corner down here. So I'm going to tap place. And just like before, that's now locked him in that corner there. And there he is. Look, we can go really close. We can have a look in a lot of detail at him. We can have a look over the top of him. And notice he's even got a shadow. He's put him in there on the table with an appropriate shadow. It's very clever how it kind of sets things out. So let's add our other characters. Let's see if we can start telling our story. So let's do new again. We'll go to our photos and I'll bring in the tree this time. And just as before, let's use those scissors and cut it out. So let's use that auto feature and we'll tick. And you see how quick and easy this is just for the younger children to be able to create their own AR content is quite amazing, really. So I think I'm going to put the tree over in this corner. And there's our tree. I think I'll place it, leave it quite big. I'll place it there so we can have a look around our tree and go and see the details. Our dinosaur is over there. So great, we've got one more to add. So let's tap new one more time and bring in the Brontosaurus. And again, use the scissors. Let's cut him out with that auto. There he is. He's so quick and easy. And I think I'm going to put him over here because he's going to be tasting the, place him about there. So there he is. So we've got the beginnings of our scene. Now imagine if you've built this environment physically, tissue paper and papier-mâché, these dinosaurs in here as well. To my T-Rex, and just like before, we could add a little bit of movement. So I'm going to make him vibrate so it looks a bit like he's running around. But there's our arrow on the left-hand side, my video camera. So this is where we could take this then into iMovie to create our own documentary, add some dramatic music in there. But we could say, here we are having a look at the T-Rex running through the fields. And there's our Brontosaurus sampling the tastiest leaves from the top of the tree. And we can have a look around and see exactly what we're doing. And of course, we can add more and more elements to this as we go along. But it gives us another way to think about doing that research, finding out facts, maybe presenting it back, scripting it, and recording it to end up in iMovie. So we've got a workflow there. Using all those skills you've been looking at in Apple Teacher, we started off in Keynote to create the elements. We've put it together in AR Maker, and then we finished in something like iMovie to create a nice little documentary. So AR Maker is a great tool in the classroom. It really is simple, but it's quite flexible, and it's just developing so quickly in the type of things we can do with AR in the classroom. So we also had a quick look in our books. So that was the first step of AR Maker. But we've also got a quick introduction here to Reality Composer. And this takes those concepts and those ideas, but just goes so much further. There is really quite a lot you can do with this if you want to spend the time and develop the content to create whole 3D environments that you can walk around and explore interactively. It really is a powerful tool. So let's have a quick look at our first steps with Reality Composer. So this is an Apple app. And it's free, you can download it, but with it being an Apple app, it works in the same kind of way as those things you've all. So let's go and have a look. Let's go and find Reality Composer. And as we open it, it looks like any of the other apps where I'm looking at where my documents would be, and I have that plus at the top of the screen to create a new project. So there we are. And the first thing it's saying is, let's choose an anchor. Well, this is just the same as AR Maker when it was asking us to place an object so it was fixed in that virtual space. And I have a few options now. So instead of it just being horizontal and on a flat table, I can attach anchors to walls. So if you are building a 3D classroom, attach these objects to walls as well. Or we can attach images in there. We've got a face option. So if you've played around with the Memoji, tasks in real time that move around as you look around the camera, we can do that here as well. So let's take our first step. So let's do a horizontal anchor to start with. So it's giving me my space now, and I can have a look around here. It's put me a little cube in, but the cube's not very exciting, but it's a starting point. So let's do the things we normally do, just like we did in Keynote. Let's tap on it and bring up this black menu here, and let's delete that option there. And I want to add something new. So up in this top corner, just like Keynote, Pages, any of those others, we've got this menu bar, and some of these things are already familiar. We've got a plus, so we can add something new. We've got a play button, so when we're ready to go, we can see it. So let's use that plus first. And just like we've got kind of the same thing here. So we've got all these objects, these kind of 3D objects that we can have a look around and explore. We've got text we can add in and arrows and signs, really good if we've got a 3D map that we want to have a look around. To the activities here, we'll have a look at some of the things we've got. Sporting objects. Let's go a bit further and we get down to toys. And I'm just going to use, for now, I'm going to use a rocket, and we just want to make this rocket in my environment take off. We'll do something nice and simple to start with. So there's my rocket, and it's placed it in my environment, and I can spin this round and have a look at it sat there. I think I might just move it across and put it on that option there. It doesn't need to be, but I'm just going to sit it on the cross. Now, just like the shapes, we can then color this if we want. We can add different styles to it. We could make our rocket kind of silver looking, or maybe a bronze color, or maybe we want a gold rocket. We can add our own colors, but I think I'm going to go for, I like this realistic one. So make it look like a nice old fashioned toy. And that's my rocket that I want to just simply take off when we get there. So there we are. We've got our first object. And of course we can add more than one object if we want to. Now, we need to add a behavior now. So what's this going to do in that augmented reality environment? And back up here, we have our menu, and we've got a couple of new options here. So firstly, we're going to look at that option with the arrow on and the little lines radiating from it. That lets us add a behavior to this object here. So we have no behaviors attached at the moment, so let's add one in, and it gives us quite a lot of presets. Do I want it to tap and flip? Do I want to tap it to play a sound, etc., etc.? Well, I don't really. I just want to tap it so that it takes a custom behavior. And it's asking us now to set the trigger, which is going to be a tap. So let's put a trigger in there. So we've got a few things here. I could be doing things like proximity to the camera, or if an object collides. So if you have been teaching coding, maybe you've used things like Scratch Junior, you've probably come across those commands when things, another set of commands to start happening. We can do things like that in the kind of the augmented reality space. So, and then the action sequence, we've got some options here where we can say, well, emphasize it or hide it or move the object, or we can orbit it like we saw in AR Maker. So we've got all sorts in here. Now, I just want it to take off. So I'm going to move, rotate, and scale. And then we get the parameters. So it's placed a movement in here by default. It's moved it to the side. And notice it's set a distance. So this will be comparable in the real world when we start looking around to move in 68.41 centimeters. Now that's okay, but I don't want my rocket to go sideways. I want it to take off. So let's have a look at the parameters. So just like when we're creating animations in Keynote, we get a slider now for the duration. So let's set the time. So I'm going to say about 10 seconds or so for this rocket to take off. And then we get the physics side of it. Do we want it to ease in? Do we want it to ease out? Or do we want it to just shoot off at once? So let's ease in. So it'll gradually take off. We get a bit more realism to it. And then this is the important one now, the position. And this is that movement to move it to the side. Now, I don't want it to go sideways. So let's clear that. And I'm going to look at my X, Y, and Z axes. And we can see those kind of mapped out on the floor there. I want the Y axis, which is the vertical one. So let's just put a figure in there. And I'm going to put 500. So this is 500 centimeters. And it's converted it to meters as we've put it in there. 5 meters there. And we do have some options to add a rotation if we want, or we could. Okay with that. I think just at this stage, we want to tap it and the rocket just takes off. Let's press the play button. Let's just test it looks about right. And there it goes. Off he's gone, shooting off to the top of the screen. So that's looking about right. I've got those little yellow dots showing me the trajectory there. So we're kind of there. Let's put this into our first environment. So again, we could have built that model environment. So we've got it really placed. I'm just going to put it on this table at the side of me. But looking up at that top menu, we've got another new button there that says AR. So let's tap the AR button and it opens up a camera. So just like AR Maker, it says look round and it's looking for that flat space and it's put our rocket there. Of course, I can shrink this down. I can move it. I think I'll put him about there. Now, I was a bit more prepared for this one. So I have created a little bit of a launch pad. So it's just a printout of a target. So I'm going to put that on the table and we'll just make sure our rocket is situated nicely on the launch pad. But I think we're okay. So if we press the play button up at the top, we're in our augmented reality environment with our rocket there sat on the table. I can go around and have a look. Of course, we could screen record this. We know how to do that from the iPad badge using our control center now. So screen record it, and we could be telling the story of our Mars mission here. We've got our rocket to Mars, and we've been building everything up. So let's do a quick countdown, and we're going to tap our rocket, and hopefully it should take off in this augmented reality environment. So 3, 2, 1, blast off. And there we go. There goes the rocket. So we can follow him and trace him. And there he goes. And we set a limit of 5 meters, so he will stop at some point. But we could have set that to whatever distance we decided. So press stop, and it takes us back there, and we can do it all again. So really, that's just a quick introduction to how we might start using augmented reality to create our own content, how we can start building it into that bigger picture of working with different apps and starting to think about that narrative element, being able to tell the story, being able to engage the children with scripting it out, thinking about the literacy side of it, and really developing that project to just engage the children with doing something a bit different. Richard.
As always, absolutely incredible. And, you know, we use the phrase blank canvas quite a lot, don't we? And I'm going to use it again because, you know, we've seen two great examples with AR Maker and the Apple app, which is obviously, you know, you could almost say, you know, one's for younger children, one's for older children, way more possibilities. And, you know, your imagination is your only limit, really, isn't it? It's just incredible. And just storytelling.
Yeah.
I saw the example in AR Maker of the three little pigs, and you know, I can imagine that would be a lively lesson with a whole load of 7-year-olds creating the three little pigs story on their iPads. Amazing, and yeah, great link into Keynote, my favourite app, and the Apple Teacher Learning Center is the place to go, is it not? So. Yeah, if we take a look at the QR codes on the screen in front of us now, the upper QR code there is the link to the overview of the program. If you've watched these videos over the last 6 or 7 episodes, you won't need to do that because you're fully aware of what Apple Teacher has in store. The lower QR code is the more important one. It's where you sign up with your Apple ID. That's your iTunes account, your Apple TV account, your Apple Music account, your Apple Fitness account, your Apple Device account, all of those reasons to have an Apple ID. And here's another one, get signed up to Apple Teacher. So get signed in, take a look and start exploring this fantastic content. If you are a school with ambition with iPad and you want to just sort of have a bit of a check-in with us around, you know, how effective is that program. If you've got some plans maybe for the next year or two, then, you know, we've got a workshop for you. It's called Apple Planning Essentials. This is where we'll come to your school, or we can do this virtually, and we'll look at the 40 or so elements that make up a successful iPad deployment. We look at elements for vision and strategy. We look at teaching. We look at learning. And we look at the environment. That is the network infrastructure. How do you manage the iPads and your Wi-Fi and the other important bits that sort of go into the jigsaw. We look at those elements. We examine them one by one with you. And we work out our to-do list for your project. So we sort through. It's literally a card sort when we can do it in person. But we can do it virtually via the magic of the Numbers app. And the plan, as you'll see on the photograph, when we do it in person, we'll leave you with a 2-meter wide poster with your plan stuck on, and individuals assigned to each task. In this virtual world we're in at the moment, we'll send you a big PDF file with the plan laid out in a similar format. If that's something you'd like us to come and talk to you about, please do drop us a line here at MCC. The email address is education@mccdigital.com. And myself or a member of the team will begin that conversation. It's a really great process. I think that's us for now. That was the final episode of this series. So thank you, David, first and foremost, for sharing your experience and knowledge. It's always a pleasure. I always learn things when you're showing us these great gems. So do come back. We've got a few ideas, have we not, for late spring, summer. And we hope you can join us again. As always, all of these videos are being archived onto the MCC YouTube channel, where you can pick away in your heart's content, do them in any order, we don't mind, share with your colleagues, and we do hope it helps you with your Apple devices in your setting. So we'll be back with more later in the year. That's it from me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Richard.